What is up, responsible day traders? Today is Monday, September 5th, 2022. I'm Lindsay Duff, and this is Responsible Day Trading. So today was a holiday, so it was a half day. The markets closed at noon, and they have just reopened about 8 minutes ago for the day. So since it was only a half day Monday, I figured we'd just start it off today. A couple of things. We do have the scholarship coming up again in October. So be on the lookout if you are looking to be part of the scholarship program. So you can possibly join us here at Responsible Day Trading, and just be on the lookout for that. We'll have information coming out within the next week or so about that scholarship. But if you're new and you're just looking to get started, just go ahead and check out our free user guide. So maybe you don't know much about futures or day trading in general. This user guide will walk you through everything that you need to know. Also, guys, right now for you profit trader, we have a 40% discount for this month. You will use the code UP40 in order to get that 40% discount. So feel free to use those and enjoy. All right, so the market has been a little wild, okay? It has been booking it, and we are going to take a look at it. But as always, you know, we like to start out with the news. So let's go ahead and bring that up. All right, so let's head on over to news, and then we're gonna head over to market news. And here we can see, obviously today was a holiday, which was a half day, so you could still trade if you wanted to. So then we can see Tuesday, 9 a.m., we've got some high impact news. Wednesday, we've got high impact news at 11. And then Thursday, we've got a couple of things going on in the morning. We do have some pre-market, but we do have some, and this is right before the market opens too. But here we'll start seeing it after the market opens. So that's about an hour and a half after the market opens. So just knowing that those are there, never say that, you know, necessarily you want to get out because of them. You may want to do that whenever it is something like FOMC, but we don't see that coming up. So just being aware is half the battle, right? All right, so let's go ahead and check out this market. Okay. Last week, we were right in here saying, okay, well, you know, I know it's pulled back. It's starting to push down a little bit, and wow, did it, right? Right now, there's really no kind of divergence between these pivots. They're both leading about the same distance lower. So it came back, it gave a nice reversal bar and pushed through that EMA. When it pushed through the EMA, the MACDs stayed strong to the downside, telling us that it was going to push down. Now, we are seeing a slowdown here. It did give a nice big pullback towards the area and is looking really at this time, you know, we may see something a little different when we move over to the other charts. But right now we're seeing this still trying to push down. We're seeing just a bit of the slowdown in the BB. And what I mean by that is it's pulled up just a little close to the next one. You can see the distance between the BBs that were happening here and how it's starting to shorten a little bit. But it doesn't necessarily say it's going to turn just yet. We are leading a lot higher in both the price and the MACDs, but at this point, it could much easily catch up, come down here and equal that previous pivot point. Back here, I said it was going to be a little bit more difficult. Now, not so much. We are at an area that causes a major pivot in the MACDs, but, you know, right now I could possibly see it pulling back again like it did here and just pushing more to the downside. But like I said, let's take a look at the other charts and see what they have for us. So here is our 28,657. This has got a little bit of an interesting look. At least it might be trying to pull back a little bit more. But it's hard to say that it's going to have enough strength to pull up here and exceed this previous pivot, which is what we'd really want to see. We'd want to see these MACDs and these price push up, push, 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 and get back above this area. Because we do have a little bit, just a teensy bit of a higher pivot right in here than we did back here. But the MACDs didn't quite agree with it. They came down lower than that previous pivot. Are they higher in the ultimate low pivot in the MACDs? Yes. We can see that in the ultimate low pivot of the MACDs, MACDs are leading higher than they were here, and even than they are right in this area. But, in the more immediate, they're a little bit in agreement. So here's another thing going on here. The EMAs have started to open up with strength to the downside. That's a little tough to fight through, right? They're starting to open up. The MACDs are still bluing up, so we may see this pull up into this area right in here, maybe even up in here and create a bit of a head and shoulders and push it back down. I mean, we did get back above the areas here. And when we got back above, it was pretty obvious that it was going to push back down because we had some major divergence going on here. You can see right in here that we couldn't even cross that top Bollinger Band with these MACDs when the price pulled up and equaled this previous pivot here. So when that happens, we want to be very aware because we've got distance to run back to the EMAs. The first area we would expect it to slow down when it does that kind of thing is right in here. When the MACDs and when the price reaches those EMAs and they had just started to cross just a little bit to the upside, but we had some very, very strong signals that pullback into the area wasn't going to hold. Those MACDs were just smoking to the downside, showing us a lot of strength, showing us a lot of momentum pushing down. It pulled back into the area here, couldn't cross that top Bollinger Band, told us that it was going to push down, pulled right back down into this area and gave a little tiny reversal bar with the MACDs leading higher. Good indication that it was going to push back up to the upside. So MACDs are pulling out of the Bollinger Bands as we speak, as we're pulling into this area, but we are still below the zero line. So those are things that we want to keep in mind. We are below the zero line. It is pulling away. When we get up to that area of the zero line, possibly right into these areas, then what we do is we reevaluate, right? So we reevaluate when we get to these areas and say, well, when I get there, are the MACDs telling us that it's going to have strength and momentum, kind of like it did here, to continue up and push through the area? Or when we get there, do we start to see a slowdown? Do we start to see divergences in our smaller tick charts as we're reaching these areas to say, hey, it's really, really struggling to push through there? So it's the way that we're looking at this, you're constantly wanting to look and say, what is it telling me right now? And am I still anticipating it to move in this area? That's what happens with a lot of traders is you get stuck into a mindset. And I say you, and I mean me as well. You get stuck into a mindset that, hey, well, the MACDs are outside of the Bollinger Bands. And, I see my smaller tick charts pushing to the upside. So this should be going up, not realizing that, hey, we are really pulling into an area that says that this may push down more. We've had a retracement, and retracements happen all day, every day. But retracements doesn't mean a change in the shift, a change in the momentum. We just want to make sure that a retracement, when it gets to the area, what's it telling us? Should this area hold, or should we break through it and continue up? So those are some things that we can evaluate by looking at our even smaller tick charts, right? So we're going to start off with this 10,946. With the 10,946, and this is where we drew that divergence on the 28,657, you can see it happened right here also, gave us great indications that it was going to give a push back down, and it gave a pretty strong one, right? Almost 100 points, or right about 100 points of a push back to the downside, just all in one day, pretty much there. Now, as we're pulling up to this EMA, which remember that EMA is pretty much the same EMA as we can see right here. You can see the way that it's behaving just a little bit below it, pulling up into it. These are the same EMAs, right? And we can see a lot of that happen when we've got the smaller charts. I've got a 610 and a 4181. We see those EMAs cross over from these type of things. Now, looking at this behavior that we had today and overnight last night, it's a little hard to read because it was very small, very low volatility, not a lot of players in the game. So we don't want to really use that as a strong indicator of what's happened. We want to pay attention to what's happening now and what was happening before. So when we're looking at the 10,946, right now we see this MACD trying to pull to the outside. And it may still push up as, oh man, it's getting back above here, but we're reaching this area once again that's just kind of held right up in here. And we were struggling to break through up. We were struggling to break through down. So typically in this type of situation, what I do for me personally is I wait for the breakthrough. I wait for the pull up and getting back above the area, or I wait for the breakthrough back to the downside. Does that mean that sometimes I have to wait a while before I take a trade? Yeah, but I also have a lot more comfort, and I feel much more at ease with taking those trades because I don't have huge risks on it. If I was going to take a long trade right now, the real viable area is to have it back behind here, maybe right back behind here, but that's not a super viable area. So being back behind here, which gives us, I don't know, something like 8 points in risk to be able to take a trade long right now. We want to be able to have that pull down, that pull back in, some divergence, be able to have a very, very low risk on it as we wait for it to go to the next area. And what you can see happening right here is a little bit of a slowdown in the MACDs, although this BB, it's got 7,000 ticks left. And here's one of the beautiful things about using the tick counter. Whenever we're watching something like this, when this gets closer and closer to zero, this BB could very well change. So paying attention to those on the smaller scale are going to be very, very big players in you making sure that you've got a viable entry and looking at the fact that you have a lower risk entry, because what we may see is this pull back a little bit deeper as we're waiting for things to kind of finalize what they're doing with that particular bar. So let's talk about overall, let's talk about immediate. In the overall right now, if we come over to the daily chart, the direction is down. We've gotten back below the EMAs. We've gotten back below the zero line, which is downward direction, right? If we look at the 28,657, the direction is down. Is it the immediate pushing up? Yes, the immediate has been pushing up since back here, but the direction is down. We're below the EMAs. We're below the zero line. We're really looking for a reason for this to slow down and push it back to the downside. Is it attempting to make the move to the upside? It's trying. We've gotten back above the zero line on the 10,946, but we're still inside of those EMAs. We have shifted the immediate to the upside on the 1597 and on the 233, but with no viable trades currently. We'd have to be somewhere way back here in order to feel comfortable taking that trade right now. Long story short, big direction down, immediate direction up. And, is it trying to shift to the upside? The MACDs look like they're trying to pull away to shift to the upside. But for me, I'm going to need it to prove it to me. I'm going to need it to show me good reasons to take these trades with lower risk entries and to be able to hold for the longer target. So another problem with taking this trade right now, if I took a long trade, my first immediate target is right here. Okay. And right now that's about 6 points away. It's not a bad distance, but it could pull back another 6-8 points before it even decides to go up to that area. So I want to have a lot of room to run to my area. I want to break back above here, pull back and give me room to run up to this 70 area instead of just room to run up to this 46 area. So that's my thought process on that kind of thing. All right, my friends, that is going to wrap it up. I've had some great talks with some of my scholarship students from the last round. Are all of them live? No, not currently, but some are very, very close. And, it takes time to learn something like this. It doesn't happen overnight. But if you look at someone who can go in 10 months from knowing nothing about the way we trade to being very confident and very secure that they're just about ready to go live, then it's a really good feeling. Let me tell you, I almost cried during one of our talks today because it just reminded me that everything we're doing and everything we're working towards is helping people, and it's helping people to not just make good decisions in trading, but in their lives. Because guys, I've said it once and I'll say it a million times. Whatever habits you have in your personal life, they will show up in your trading. And so it is extremely important to identify the things that you're doing that just don't serve you anymore, that don't serve you as a trader, that don't serve your growth and your well-being and your peace. Okay. So if those things aren't being served by the actions that you're doing in your daily life, it's not going to be served by the actions that you're doing in your trading life as well. As much as we'd like to say, I'm just going to be a robot and have no emotions, that doesn't work. Okay. We have to pay attention to what's going on in here while we're trading in order to have control over those things, or not. Sometimes we don't even have control over them, but in order to recognize them and be responsible and step away when necessary, or, to recognize them and apply pressure to ourselves in certain ways. And what I mean by that is applying pressure in a way where you're, hey, you know what? Today I'm going to sit here for a couple extra hours and I'm going to review all of my trades. I'm going to see the consistent things that I'm doing that are getting me in too early, getting me in too late, getting me out too late, those kind of things. Why am I holding on? Why am I not? And those things are really only identified. Number one, we can help you identify those by looking through your trades and saying, here's another set of eyes on them. And here's what we see and what we know from our experience that you can work on. Or, just having your own set of eyes on them and saying, I see it now. I see where I'm consistently doing the same thing that's creating the same result that I'm not happy with. So yeah, it's just all baby steps towards this giant leap, right, guys? And we have the choice. You just got to make it and take that deep breath, dive on in, and make those decisions about your life so that things can be where you want them to be. But all right, guys, I hope everybody has a wonderful week. Don't forget, 40% discount, also scholarship coming up. So we'll get y'all some information about that really, really soon. And I hope everybody has a wonderful week. And as always, you know that I look forward to catching you on the profitable side.